welcome to my show, going from thousands to millions. As always, I'm excited. I got Renato here today. Renato, mate, welcome to my show.
Thanks, Sam. Thank you for having me in the luxurious studio. I love it.
We haven't done this before. It's the first time we're doing it. You know, I met you, 3-4 years now?
Yeah, probably 4 years ago.
Targa, Tasmania.
Yeah.
My first experience of Targa, Tasmania. So Ferrari was doing the first time
Doing the tour.
Targa. Yeah. So very exciting. Yeah.
It was awesome. Like, how good?
How good. I've never experienced anything like that. To be honest with you, I was scared. Right? I was scared for my safety, but to have you guys there, it made it feel very comfortable. Then I was scared for my car because of all the gravel. So those stages where I was going really, really slow. But mate, you know, it's amazing how I always talk about, like, you know, you buy cars and all that kind of stuff, but it's not about just the cars. It's about the experience and the people you get to meet through that.
Exactly right. And that's, so I guess for the viewers and listeners of your show, my background is in automotive events, and we were there facilitating that event for Ferrari. And one of the things I've found over the years is I've made some amazing friends, and also from a business point of view, I've learned a lot by being with these people for extended periods of time, seeing the way they act and the way they, you know, communicate and deal with people. And certainly for that event, at something like Targa, you're spending, I think it's 7 days we're away, or 8 days we're away.
Yeah.
You know, you travel over on the boat and back together, and we all travel as a tour. It's an awesome way to meet people and I guess just bond. And obviously the common passion there is cars.
That's right.
But there's so many more similarities with everyone within that. And it's, you know, it's funny that I call that stuff work, and I think I even joked about it at that event, you know, like, it is work, but man, it's such a good time and you meet so many amazing people and good food and, you know, good wine, and everyone appreciates, you know, the nice things in life. But it's also about driving awesome cars.
It is, you know, and it's interesting, like, because you make friendships, like our friendship and many other friendships that you would not normally make if it wasn't because of those events.
Exactly.
And like you said, it brings people together because of that common bond.
Yeah.
But from that, you end up, you know, making friends long for life, and you get to learn so much about the actual cars, which you don't know, right?
Yeah.
People like me, like, you know, as a kid growing up, I always loved Ferraris, right? So you buy the car, and I don't really sit there and read the manual or do those things, right? You just buy the car, you're excited. Yeah, you know, you're just excited, so you just get on with it. But there's so much more to learn. So that said, I want to get to know about you.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to know about your experience, because you're a bloody awesome driver. You know, I remember doing some hot laps with you and stuff, and it actually is mind blowing. But I want to know about you. So how did you start? So take me back from your childhood. All right, what did you do? And tell me your story.
So my dad's probably the biggest culprit for getting me into what I'm doing now in terms of the sport. We would go and watch car racing at local tracks. When I grew up in Brisbane, and we'd go to Surfers Paradise, an old track that's no longer there. We'd go to the Indy on the Gold Coast when that was about, but also we'd go and do the Adelaide Formula One, and that's probably the biggest thing in my life that stuck as a lasting memory. You know, like, the old Formula One cars were so noisy, the smell, big tyres, like, it was just so much theatre about the sport, and that really stuck with me and kind of, you know, probably ingrained the motorsport in my blood, you know, from a young age. I didn't do the traditional karting thing and that as a kid. We didn't really have, you know, much money as a family to go and do that, nor was there, you know, ultimately it's a parent that gets the kids into that, you know, like, you know, at that age. And my dad wasn't really into the racing himself, but in teenage years we got a very cheap, basic open wheel style car, like a Formula One style car, but super low power. Actually ran a Volkswagen Beetle motor.
No way.
They were cheap to run, but it was a good breeding ground. And I spent a fair bit of time doing that in my sort of teenage years, and then kind of went, I guess, like semi-pro in my sort of early 20s when I started having, you know, a real job. Okay. So I had a day job doing IT, you know, like...
No way. Yeah. I never knew that. Okay,
So I spent a long time working for a big property company running all their IT infrastructure, and on the weekends I'd go racing. And it kind of grew from, I guess, being a hobby and a passion into being, you know, a job. I was getting paid by sponsors and people to race cars.
Wow, man.
And an opportunity came up at one point for me to go and chase the dream, you know, like we have, like, you know, TV shows here where you can kind of, you know, go on and live in a house and, you know, you win money, whatever. There's similar thing, reality TV show in the UK, go over and run through a scholarship process. Wow. Media training, exercise, and all the stuff involved in being a racing driver back then. as well as driving a car, and I came second in the competition.
That's pretty cool, man.
I quit my proper paying real job here,
Yeah.
moved to the UK and chased that dream and came second, but ended up beating the guy that won it anyway, which is cool, in the first race. And then ever since then, coming back, I just pursued that as my, my passion project, but also my job.
So what was the focal point? Like, was it that event that made you think, you know what, I've actually got what it takes, and I love doing this, and I'm gonna stop doing what I was doing before? Because there's a lot of people that want to do a lot of things, but they're so scared to take that step.
Yeah.
And but there's a point. All right, was there a point for you? Or?
And there was a bit. So I guess the first thing, being scared of taking that step, I was really fortunate. I worked for a property company, but the CEO at the time was an ex-Wallabies rugby union captain.
Okay. Yeah.
So professional sports person turned professional, career after his sports career. And I went and had a chat to him, like, Paul, this opportunity's come up.
Yeah.
If I'm going to have to leave for like 7-8 months to go and pursue this overseas. Like, what do I do? I'm 20, whatever I was at the time. And he's like, do it. He goes, you're being a sports person. He's like, do it. You will regret it for the rest of your life if you don't. He says, you'll always walk back into another job. We'll give you a reference. Like, there's always the opportunity. And I went, you know what? I can swear, yeah. Fuck it. Like, fuck it. I literally walked back to my desk, wrote up my resignation letter, and put it on my boss's table, and said, I'm going to pursue this. So that was the first hurdle, was psychologically going, hey, there's light at the end of the tunnel. If this doesn't work out, I'll never regret it, ever, and I'll come back and I'll reset and continue on, doing spreadsheets in IT.
And it's so true, because what is the worst thing that can happen? It doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And that's what people are afraid of, like, but if you don't do it, then you're never going to get to do it. But if you actually give it a go, if it doesn't work out, what's the worst thing? You just come back and give it a go again.
And you know what? Like, in reality, like, it didn't work out. Like, I went over there to win this thing. The prize, the only prize, was a fully paid, funded drive if you won. I didn't win, so I didn't get that. But it opened my eyes to come back to exactly the opportunities. So over here back then, we're talking like 13 years ago or something like that now. And it opened my eyes to an industry that was huge in Europe, which is automotive events and consulting to automotive brands to produce experiences like Target Tasmania, etc. That didn't really exist here. It was very, very infant over here in terms of an industry. But it exposed me to it over there, actually working as like an instructor and that, trying to pay the bills, and I was traveling through Europe. And when I came back here, I sort of went, like, I looked at Australia as like a fairly insular kind of, economy for our industry, and went, there's so much that can be done here. That's
not being done at the moment, because we weren't exposed to it.
Exactly right. We weren't exposed to it. So that really set my mind on a path of, I pushed all of my energy into focusing on growing something that didn't really exist, and here we are 14 years later, and
you're doing it. You're doing the best at it. So tell me, what's the name of the company?
Motokinetic.
How'd you come up with that name?
It was actually like way back even before then. My brother and I and a couple of his uni mates were looking to form like a little consulting group around engineering and motorsport. We'd all done mechanical engineering or fringe kind of studies around that sort of stuff. We all were interested in cars, and it's something we came back a long time back with it. And really, it was just like, it doesn't mean, if you break it down into some of its parts, it doesn't mean what people think. It's just, it was a cool name we had, and we just stuck with it. And to be honest, it's become, I've had some clients previously like, you should just call it like Renato Events, or like, use your name, because everyone knows your name. But it took 5 or 6 years, and the brand equity is now there in Motokinetic that name is used as a term, like, why don't you just get Motokinetic to run it, kind of thing.
That's so true. And man, you do a lot of events for like Ferrari and that. So tell me, how, like, is it just one brand, or you do different brands? How does it work? Like,
no, so we look after 19 different manufacturers now. 19 different manufacturers.
Wow.
So, and that's everything from doing customers bringing their own cars to the racetrack, and like I would have seen in some of your videos, Phillip Island, etc., through to tours through the wineries, Target Tasmania tours. We just launched some electric vehicles a couple of weeks ago for a manufacturer. We're doing a really sort of closed private prototype on a new vehicle in the start of next year for a huge manufacturer.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Which is pretty amazing work to be doing. And really, the thing I love about the work is that no two events are the same. Even though people go like, oh, you're driving around the track one day, you're driving around the track the next. It's not, man. Like, what Lamborghini or Rolls Royce want is different than what Ferrari wants.
It's so true. It's a different experience, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I I learnt this very early on in the UK. There's an amazing event called Goodwood Festival of Speed.
Yes, I've heard of it.
It's the best car thing in the world by far. Everyone, all the manufacturers spend big dollars, but it's all about a lasting experience in both the owners that are there, the people driving the cars, and the people paying money to walk through the gate. And going there a few times over, once I went there just as a punter. I just bought a ticket at the gate. I wanted to join a queue. I wanted to see how long the queues took. I wanted to go and buy food from all the places. I wanted to try and get into the places I shouldn't and stress test the event, right? I wanted to learn from the event because it's the benchmark. And I went, you know what? When I come back, I want every event I do to be like the first time you walk into Disneyland. You know, I want somebody to turn up, and the very first experience they get when they turn up is a positive one, and they just keep getting positive engagements with all of my staff, anything they touch at the event. You know, we have driving simulators and masseuses sometimes there. You know, we have amazing brands partnering with the dealers to have like bespoke watch fittings and all those kind of cool things there.
And different.
And I want that to be everyone's experience, to leave there and go like, not one thing I did today was shit. It was the best day of my life.
And you know what? I can vouch for that because I've been to a lot of your events, and the thing I love the most is how good the experience is, like you said. Because yes, you get to drive cars and all that, but it's not just about the cars. It's all about experience, and life is all about memories and experiences.
Exactly right.
Because that's what you take away with you. You know what I mean? And yes, you're paying for events and all that, but you can't buy memories. I know. Like, do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's just something that you could do something so simple, but you still, if it leaves a long-lasting impression, 10 years later you can go, hey, remember that day we did this and that, and you laugh about it, and that is just the most beautiful thing that you can take away, right?
Exactly right.
So tell me, I know you had a lot of different experiences driving too. You know, I remember you told me a story about losing your hearing. So you've actually had a lot of like tough experiences through driving.
I've had a problem with my right ear that I started losing my hearing, and a lot of racing drivers get that, you know, later in life.
What is that? Is it from the sound, the noise?
From the noise, but for me particularly, I had an issue where I effectively got arthritis in the 3 bones inside your ear, which are tiny little bones. And I had to get all of those bones removed and artificial ones replaced, you know, in my ear, basically, to get my hearing back.
And that came from racing?
A combination of that and just having a hereditary thing, but the noise that I was suppressing, or, you know, putting on my ear day in, day out in race cars.
And there was a time that you got carbon monoxide poisoning?
It's not funny, Sam. For anyone that's watching, it's not funny.
It wasn't back then.
We got beautiful, fresh, cool air at the Cullinan now. So I was racing Ferrari up at Bathurst, and we, you know, a whole bunch of problems, but basically bad exhaust gas was leaking back into the cabin of the car.
While you were racing?
While I was racing, and you can't smell carbon monoxide. It's odorless, it's invisible, but it's obviously very bad for you. So what it effectively does is, you know, poison you from the inside. It can restrict your oxygen levels in your body as well. So
what happened? So you're racing? And
racing, and I'd been sick in the car, but I wasn't conscious of me throwing up at the time. I became conscious of it when I realised I had some vomit on my gloves and my suit when I'm racing around.
While you're racing, you're vomiting?
So, oh, wow. But I wasn't aware I was vomiting. I know it's probably hard for people to understand, but I wasn't aware of it until after I realised I'd thrown up on myself, and I radioed the crew and said, I need to come in, I've been sick in the car and I'm not feeling well. I thought I pulled in like a minute later. Turns out I did another whole lap of the track because they told me the other driver's not ready to jump in because it was a multi-driver endurance race. And anyway, I got back and stalled the car, put it in the wrong gear, and had to get lifted out of the car and basically passed out on the ground of the pits. And then it was sort of like a 6 to 9 month recovery to properly kind of cleanse my body of it. I still get chronic migraines and get quite sick from it even now, and that's like 4 years later or something like that now.
Wow, that's pretty tough.
Yeah, so it's really it's not very common in race cars because a lot of stuff's improved over the years for it. But you know, I guess like any accident, there's a number of problems that lead to a result, and that was the result for me. Was that so?
Wow, and you know, and people don't think about that. You know, it's not something that you would really know about unless you
you think you might crash into someone and, you know, roll over or
have you had any crashes?
I had a couple of crashes.
You have?
Yeah.
Is it scary?
Not really. Like, it's, you know, they people talk about stuff happening in slow motion, like, you know, when like something, whether it's a car accident or whatever, it all happened in slow mo. I guess for me, probably the biggest one I had was racing at Bathurst in another car, and had brake failure going up the hill, thankfully, not down the hill, but it was still like a 210k an hour. You push the pedal and the pedal's just straight to the floor. You know, pumping. But in the time from me hitting the brake pedal to hitting a wall at 170 head on, it was probably like 1.6 or 1.7 seconds.
So it just happens.
But to me, it was like brakes don't work, pump the brakes, chuck it into a low gear, get the steering, try and miss that to hit the soft part. Like there was so many things that went through my head, and then I watched the video and it was like, hey.
Well, it's so true.
But you kind of, I'm anticipating, like any driving we do, if you remember when we would have done any target stuff or track, I'm always talking about vision, looking ahead of the car,
it's so true.
Planning for what's coming up. As soon as that went to the ground, rather than looking around the corner, I looked for what I'm going to hit and figured out the softest thing and the best way to hit it.
It's crazy, you know, you always say that because you're not used to doing that. Like, I'm not used to it. And they always say, look forward, like look at the corner you're going to go to, like 2 corners ahead or whatever, right? But because you're just used to seeing what's in front of you, it's like you got to get trained. You got to train your mind to look that far. But when you do, you take the corners so much better and everything because you're anticipating.
So like your
what's coming
812 Superfast, which a lot of your viewers and that would know and followers would know, Phillip Island, the front straight, we're travelling like 90 plus metres per second. You know, so when you're coming up to a corner at 90 metres a second, you've got to be looking 3 or 4 times that ahead of the car to plan for it because you cap it so quick. Because in a second, you're 90 metres past where you just were. You know, you can't just be looking at the bonnet. You've got to be like looking way ahead of the car.
That's so true. So tell me, what's your favourite track?
Honestly, in Australia, Phillip Island's one of my
Why
best.
is that your favourite track?
Firstly, the scenery, it's beautiful. Like
it is beautiful.
If you've never been to Phillip Island, even not for the track, just the scenery there, you guys have got to go and check it out. It's an amazing place. But the track, to have green flowing hills on the edge of a cliff at the ocean, and beautiful bitumen smooth, like billiard table smooth racetrack, big speeds, and in the sort of cars I was racing a lot years ago, the GT3 spec cars, fast, like, you know, there's 3 corners over 200 k's an hour there. It's just an amazing place to drive.
It is pretty cool, man.
And we're pretty lucky to have that here. Whenever I was racing in Europe, all the Australians wanted to know about was Bathurst, or Mount Panorama Bathurst, and Phillip Island. You know, because they see those races on TV, MotoGP races at Phillip Island, so the world knows of Phillip Island. We're lucky to have it, you know, and for you it's in your backyard.
Really, man, and it's so close, like it's 1.5 hours from Melbourne CBD, so it's not that far either. So tell me, what's your favourite car on the track? Because it's interesting, you know, like
that's a tough
I know it is, man, but like, you know, for me, like the 812 is such a scary car. Like, you know, I drove the 488 to Targa, Tasmania, and what a beautiful car, right? I drove the F8 a couple of weeks ago. Again, amazing car. I've driven the Lamborghini, totally different. You know, I always say, if you want to be serious, take a Ferrari. If you want to party, take a Lamborghini. Like, I don't know why, but it just feels like that, right? But man, I'll tell you something. I went to Sandown last week, and I took the GT3. I've only had that car for a couple of months, and I took it on track for the first time. I've never been in the GT3 RS on the track, and what a car! What? Like, I actually felt so safe.
That's what it's designed for, though.
Yeah,
right? That car's at home on a racetrack.
Yeah, you know? I felt so safe. On the straights, you know, I didn't feel as much speed as the 812 and all that. You know, and I'm not a professional driver, far from it. But like around corners and stuff. Oh man, I did lose the back a couple of times, but just a little bit, because I was pushing it. But man, what a car!
They're unreal.
And you're right, it is built for the track because when I bought that car, I didn't test drive it. I just saw it. I'm like, oh wait, it's orange. I like it. It looks good. I'm gonna try and get a deal on it. You know, any excuse to justify the purchase.
That's not how you should buy a car. Not based on the color. Okay.
Not based on the color of the deal. You know, I'm just trying to justify. You know, and then I picked up the car and I drove it. I'm like, oh wow, this is terrible, man. It's so mechanical. It's CBD, tick.
Really
and then
stiff suspension.
And then in one of the back streets, I gave it. And wow, man, what a car.
They properly open up higher up that engine.
Around 9 revs. And it was just like amazing, right? Absolutely amazing. And like I said, I just felt so safe. And it's funny how all the cars have different
that's what attracts people to different cars. You know, like you're one of those people that, you know, will buy it on the colour, but like loving it. I know you love your Ferraris, but you also love other cars.
Oh, I do,
much,
man.
right?
And I think they're all different, like you said, and they bring different things, you know?
Yeah, and there's other people, I know like yourself, where they've got a suite of different supercars and other things. You know, I mean, like right now we're in a Rolls-Royce Cullinan.
You know, and I want to talk about that, you know? What do you think of it, mate? Do you like it?
I love it.
Huh?
I love it.
You know, I drove, 800 kilometres from Melbourne to Sydney in it, and man, it felt so good.
Yeah. I mean, look at this. I mean, I know we've got the seats full, but look at the space. We're both 6 foot, legs stretched out, super comfy seats,
V12,
amazing roof. Big
shoot
V12.
stars, which you know you can't really see it now, but at night it's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
And like you said, V12, twin turbo.
Yeah.
Wow.
Big engine, a heaps of luxury. I think we were saying before we started this, like even stuff, it's probably hard for the viewers to see, but like there's these little knobs here that would like open and close the vents.
Yeah.
Like even just touching that, you like, that's being crafted. It's not just like out of a parts bin.
Yeah.
Someone has designed that to feel like that and work that way.
It's so
and I
true.
love, you know, in a luxury car, you're not just paying for a price tag or a badge in the front. You're paying for an experience, and that's one of the experiences.
It's so true, and you're right. You know, those little things, they're there for a reason.
My 1980s Ford Laser or whatever it was my first car.
I used to have one of
It
them.
didn't feel like that.
No, it didn't.
Your
You're
Sigma
right. Yeah,
didn't
didn't feel like
probably
that.
just cracked off when you touched it in the summer, you know?
That's so true.
And that's all part, for me, that's all part of the experience. You know, the materials you use, it's why you can go and personalise a $1 million Ferrari.
Yeah, man.
Because some people want to take it to that next level and you know, feel the car in another way, not just driving.
And it is, you know what, it's like, growing up as a kid, I used to run and sit on my dad's lap, and every day before he went to work, I just wanted to start the engine.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm so passionate about cars. Yeah, look, you know, I don't race and all that kind of stuff, but you know, it's just like talking about experiences again. It's just such a wonderful experience, you know. And like you said, every different car has a different experience. You know, with this, you have the luxury, because sometimes you're not in the mood. You don't want to hear that crackle, and you don't want to speed and all that kind of stuff. And you sit in this car, and it just feels so nice, you know. And then some days you need that energy. You know, you need to hear it. You need to rev. You need to go. You know. And it's interesting. Like it's like just different people. They have their own little DNA.
Yep, absolutely.
You know.
And coming back to your question before, like, what's my favourite car to drive on track? I guess that sort of leads back into it in that something like a 488 Pista, like it's like a GT3 RS. Like it's designed to be driven fast on a racetrack. That's its primary role. Yes, it's got number plates and you can drive it on the street, but it's a bit of a compromise to go backwards. But they're very, very fast cars. They're designed to. They got heaps of aerodynamic, heaps of power and everything, but. One of the best experiences I've had on track was I drove an old E-Type Jag at Sandown once. A guy, we were just at a generic track day, and a guy said, "Oh, come with me for a drive. You have a drive." Awesome, like, you know, big straight six, manual gearbox, clutch pedal, no power steering, stuff like that, where it's super analog, and you are literally at one with the car. You know, like you have to. The car will not do anything unless you influence it. Modern stuff's got all these switches and dials and stuff. For me, as a growing up being a driver, the more involved I am in the process, the more I enjoy.
I totally get that.
Honestly, every different car, I get to drive some amazing things on racetracks. Sure, there's some stuff that'll do 300 k's an hour, but the stuff that'll do 180 to 200, if that's as fast as it can go, you are still driving it at 10 tenths. It doesn't matter, So that the risk versus reward sort of changes a little bit.
I get that.
But for me, it's just about being engaged in that driving process.
It's true. I get it. I totally get it. So, it's funny you said the Pista. I'm picking it up in probably 3-4 weeks, and, I was always wondering, is it like the 488? So it's still a different car.
It is. It's so much more focused for track driving, and that's what Pista means in Italian is, circuit or track. And it is designed to be the fastest thing Ferrari had designed at that point around a racetrack,
So what are your thoughts about the V8 stopping and going to V6s? Because they say the F8's the last V8
the final 8, I mean, we saw it with Formula 1, if we take it to the nth degree. We had V12s and V10s, then V8s, now V6 turbos. The performance of Formula 1 is still at the best it's ever been. They're still the fastest cars they've ever had. The cars are not going to be slower. They've got performance targets to meet with efficiencies and exhaust out the back, etc. But yes, the noise is going to change and everything else, but the cars aren't going to get slower. The driving experience is going to be just as real in those engines as the others.
That's true.
Sure, it's going to sound a little bit different, but you know what? We're just going to evolve with it.
You're so right. And, you know, whether we like it or not, we will. And you're 100% right. The experience still will be amazing.
Yeah.
They're not going to lose that experience, you know.
Yeah,
and you have to evolve with times. What are you going to do? Stay back? And, you know, you can't. But it's still nice to have those cars from time to time to be able to take you back to that memory lane, you
Absolutely.
know?
And I look at prime example, say SF90 Ferrari, which is like 1,000 horsepower plus, amazing car. Hybrid technology. Yeah. Remember when hybrids came out? Everyone's like a Prius or what?
Yeah.
Like, that's never going to go anywhere. Well, now you got 1,000 horsepower Ferrari with that technology effectively on board, and no one's going, well, that's never going to take off.
That's
true. We're evolving. Cars are evolving.
Have you driven it yet?
No, we've got one in 2 weeks coming.
Are you excited?
Absolutely. It's going to be crazy fast.
Wow.
Great. If you think about, you know, your 812s, 800 horsepower. At F8, we're looking at 700 horsepower. We're talking about 1,000. 20% more power.
Is it rear-wheel drive or four-wheel?
It's kind of it's rear with a combination of front as well. So,
okay, because that's scary. Rear-wheel drive, 1,000 horsepower.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of technology involved and a lot of aerodynamics and everything involved in the car, but you know, it's going to be amazing. You know,
man, do you ever take the controls off?
Yeah.
I've never done that. I'm so scared to do that. So you actually take it off, because the worst I've ever done is race mode. That's it.
It depends on the circumstance. Like normally, if I'm like when we would have done a hot lap, I would have done it in race mode because.
Okay. Yep. Because you have someone else in the car?
Well, it's probably your car, to be honest, or it's someone else's car. But yeah, there's someone else in the car. And if we drive at 80%, 85% of what we would drive out with no margin for error, it's still more than fast enough for most people to kind of get a thrill ride out of it. And there's a lot of protection involved.
But when you turn it off, is it a totally different experience? That's what I want to know.
It is for the driver.
It is, yes. It's a totally different experience.
You got your work cut out, yeah. You don't realise how much the technology is helping you until you switch it off.
And then there's basically you're on your own.
Yeah. Like we've been on the skid pan, I think, before at Phillip Island.
Yes.
You know, you in an 812, you breathe on the accelerator and you're backwards straight away.
That's right, yeah.
Whereas you have it in race mode, you breathe on it and the car just drives off.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot happening, it's very subtle, and a lot of engineers spend a lot of time to try and make those systems seamless in terms of they're working and saving your life, but you don't know.
You don't know. You know, one thing I heard was that, and I don't know if it's true or not, but you'll be able to tell me, is that when you get like a super fast or whatever car you get, the first 1,000 kilometers or whatever it is, the way you drive it, it kind of, the car recognizes that. Is that true or
no? There's a bit of like fuzzy logic built into the cars, so they do kind of learn some things, but it won't make it more powerful or drive differently.
But do you think it knows how you drive it and it bases itself on that, or no? Not really. No.
Not really. No.
Could that ever happen? You reckon?
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely logic
like AI and stuff, you know.
Yeah, they can learn on, you know, especially where it will come to is making the car more efficient, using less fuel. If someone's got a heavy or a clumsy right foot, like a taxi driver that's like stop-start the whole time, they would pad that out. They would, you know, soften or dampen that throttle application out to make it save fuel and be smoother on the car.
That's true. Man, I could sit there and talk to you back all the time, but what I want to know also is, because I love it, you know, your business, you know, we talked about how you took that chance and, you know, how you changed your life, and you've been doing it for so many years now, and, you know, and every year it gets better and better. And what I wanted to know was, one of the questions that I ask everybody is that there's a lot of people out there that might be where you were 20 years ago or where I was 20 years ago, and they don't know what to do, and they're scared to take that step, you know. What would your advice be to them as young people out there that are thinking of about going and doing their own thing, but they're so hesitant and scared of taking risk and worried about what they could lose or not, you know, or they don't feel good enough? Because I think there's a lot of people that they don't feel good enough. You know, they don't feel like, they just don't have that self-belief in them, you know. What would you tell them?
I think certainly in my experience doing what I did, like I sat on that for so long going, I want to chase this dream, but I've got a job now. If I quit this job, I go to having no money. I felt like I had nowhere to go back to. Probably the first thing is you'll always have someone to go back to. You know, if you've studied hard and you've got a degree or a diploma or whatever, and you've got some experience. And you've got some skill set there, you'll always be able to step back into a job. Worst case, you might have damaged your pride a little bit, but you're conscious moving forward. You'll be like, I will have no regrets of having done what I've done. That's probably the first thing. The second one is value your time. You know, you can be as rich as you want. You can't buy more time. And when you're trying to set a business up and you're trying to be efficient with your time is money in that case, and you've really got to be efficient with what you put mental effort into, but physical effort into growing your business.
Yeah.
And I probably myself, it's a learning for me early on, is I didn't value my time enough.
So well said, man.
I spent too much time in things that didn't earn me a living.
Yeah.
And whilst earning money's not everything, you need the cash flow to keep the business ticking over, you know. So
yeah, well, that's so true, and that's so well said, mate. Thank you for joining us today. You know, you are one of the sweet guys. You know, you really are, man. You have a heart of gold, and you're just such a beautiful human being. And you know, like I said, like I always say, people buy off people, not off because of things.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of the things that attracts people to you is that you're so kind. You're so like you're always helping people out. You love what you do, and that just comes out in you. And you know, not only I love you, all the people that I know love you. My family loves you. You're just such a great human being. And you know, for you to make the time and come here and you know give your time, because you know this show's all about giving back to other people. You know, this is why we do it. You know,
absolutely.
You know, I really, really appreciate it. I just want to say thank you for coming, and I can't wait to share this with the audience. And
Thanks,
yeah, mate, thanks for coming.
thank you for having me, man. And as I said, like, you know, I get to meet some awesome people. We've had so many laughs, so many laughs over the years, and I'm sure there's going to be more to come. And when you get that pista,
I can't wait.
It's on.
It's on. That's it. I can't wait. So everybody, thank you for joining us again today. Tune in to my podcast on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, and I can't wait to see you guys again. God bless.
Cheers, everyone.